Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about following the breadcrumbs, about spirit communication, and kind of like how I feel that the spirit world will never give us more than we can handle. I feel like when we receive or when we become more aware of the ability that we have to communicate with spirit, it happens at the exact right time in the exact right way. I really feel it's just this beautifully orchestrated plan. That's truly how I feel. And so if you're listening and, you've been led here because of your own intuitive experiences, or, you just found me randomly or what have you, please trust that things unfold as they should in the way that is best for you, to understand, observe. I was going to say absorb, but observe too, and grasp and learn. Things feel like they happen in the exact kind of way with the exact kind of people that it's meant to. I really truly feel that when we're talking about especially intuitive development. So let's get right into it about why I'm here today. I want to share some things with you. Firstly, I want to share a experience that I had just last week that I feel is totally worth sharing and something that other people will maybe resonate with, see themselves in, or just maybe learn a new way or have an awareness kind of drop in of ways in which spirit can communicate. So that's my intention. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe, I had somebody on Instagram send me a DM, and she said something to the effect of that she had found me through listening to my this podcast, and that I have really helped her in ways that she couldn't possibly express, just in this really deep way of helping her feel validated, of normalizing her own experiences and presenting things in a way that made her feel curious, inspired, and excited by. And so that was just about the best compliment I could have received from a podcast listener. And I said, oh my goodness, thank you so much for reaching out and letting me know that. I'm so glad that you are taking something positive out of this podcast. And so that was kind of like the extent of our interactions. And then I think she had also shared kind of like that she was in kind of a similar region as I live in, a couple hours away from where I live, but like the same general kind of direction in Ontario, and said, I can't wait till I can get down to Kingston so I can have a reading with you. And I said, well, actually I work totally virtual, so you don't have to come all the way to Kingston. Oh, and I'm going to be moving soon. So anyways, it will all work out. And she's like, oh, okay, awesome. And that was the extent of our interactions. And then fast forward to one day last week, morning time. My teens had already been off to school, and my youngest was, I feel like, still sleeping at this time. And I was just having some quiet time with my cup of coffee, and the sun was beaming in through the window, and I got a message on Instagram. And it was from Jay. So Jay is the person that I've been speaking about that reached out to me on Instagram earlier, like maybe a week earlier, to tell me how she had found me, etc. And so she said, I feel really nudged to share this with you, and I don't really know why other than I do. So hopefully I'm not bothering you. And so she shared a really short little clip of a video that she had taken when she was away. It had been her birthday, or no, it hadn't been her birthday yet. It had been, she had gone away for her birthday. And so she took this video of this orb, well, there was an orb in the video. Let's see if I can let's start over. She took a video from her hotel motel room of something outside. And then when she played it back, she noticed there was an orb on the screen. And she said, my husband tells me this is because of the sun, but I like to think that it's actually a message, a little nod, wink from my nanny. And I said, yeah, I definitely feel some energy from your nanny. And then this kind of opened up a line of communication. So this was finally orchestrated by her loved ones in spirit and by the spirit world for sure. So, she felt nudged to message me and send me that video. Why? Well, I really and truly feel like her grandmother would have kind of placed that in her heart, in her mind, in her awareness of, hey, just do it, just send it. There's not a super obvious awareness on her behalf at the time that message is in fact from her grandmother, like encouragement for her. She just knows that she feels that she should. But remember, our loved ones speak to us and send messages to us very often through our thoughts, right? And our feelings, our intuitions about things. This is how they communicate to us in that kind of way. So I can see it, how after the fact I can see that it's been divinely orchestrated this way. So she reaches out, she sends me the video. We start talking about her nanny. Then we start talking about my nanny. And together we're just talking about our relationships with our grandparents, how lucky and blessed we feel to have even had them as our grandparents. Just get big old chills when I'm talking about them there. And, just memories. We start sharing specific memories of our childhood with our grandparents. This is really healing kind of, early morning conversation. I thought, oh, that's so sweet. That's so nice. And then all of a sudden, I start to feel the presence of her grandmother. It's very subtle, just a slight kind of energy shift where I'm like, oh, I've got somebody here a little bit closer. Before that, when we were talking about her nanny, I didn't feel blended with nanny. I felt I was just talking about a third party. All of a sudden, I feel like, oh, I'm blending with her energy. Feels like somebody's energy has come kind of into mine. And so I said, I don't exactly know like every single word that I said or how this came about, but I essentially asked her a question about her grandmother, or, said like, I feel like your grandmother's here. Now, a lot of these messages, I can't go back and validate exactly how things were said because they were voice notes for the most part. But I felt like her grandmother was here. And so we started talking about that a little bit. And I said, your grandmother keeps, oh no, this is what happened. Sorry. So what happens next is we start talking about her grandmother, and let me take a step back. So we're still talking about her grandparents, my grandparents. Then all of a sudden she said, oh my goodness, look. And she sent me a picture of her TV in her living room that was on. Her kids were home and watching it. And there was some TV show on, and on the back wall, in the background of this TV show, was a big, I feel like the initials were EK, but there's like an E and a K, big initials, like light up kind of initials on the wall in the background of the show. And she said, those were my grandfather's initials. Like, that's kind of interesting. We're talking about him and her, and then I see his initials. And I was like, yeah, knowing that that's purposeful. We're talking about him. If we weren't talking about him, we weren't having this kind of conversation. Perhaps she wouldn't have looked up at the moment that EK was on the screen. Perhaps she would have, but she wouldn't have registered that it's connected to her grandfather at all. Just would have been a passing moment. But because we were just talking about him, and then she saw it, something connected for her and made her say, I need to pay attention to this. So she sent me a screenshot of that, sent it over, and I was like, oh. And then this is when I feel her grandmother start to blend with me. I said, okay, so I feel like your grandmother's here, and she keeps showing me a locket. Do you recall your grandmother having a locket, or is there like a specific memory about this locket with you? And she said, my grandmother did have a locket that she often wore, and her initials were on it. And I thought, okay, here we go, right? We're definitely blending with spirit now. This is going to become a little mini reading because he just showed his initials through the TV, right? Knowing, oh, there's an EK in the back. I'm going to make sure that she notices that, influencing her to take a look, right? But her grandmother was like, well, I don't have access to anything in her physical reality right now that has my initials on it. So, well, I better tell Amy, the medium, about this locket, because then she will tell Jay, and Jay will say, her initials were on that. So now we're rocking and rolling. Okay. So we're like, okay. So then, I brought through a couple other things with her grandmother, and I said, I really feel like your grandmother is right there in the room with you. And I said, what she keeps showing me is that you are brushing. Are you like brushing your daughter's hair, or did you just like move her hair and brush it away from her face? And I said, because I keep seeing that motion of somebody kind of brushing hair away from face. And Jay replied, I'm shaking, like I don't even know how to process this, because I literally just did that to my daughter's hair. I brushed it out of her face. And I just got big old goosebumps as I'm talking about this. Validation from the spirit world for sure. And she said, I don't even know. I can't even process all this. This is unbelievable. And so I said, okay, well, the next thing I'm seeing is this big white peony. So a peony is this kind of big blooming flower. It's my husband's favorite flower. It's kind of top heavy, so you usually have to get like a stake or something to kind of prop its head up, or it will droop over. But it's beautiful, like big blooming. The heads of a peony can get like, yay big. And I keep seeing one, and it's white. And I said, I don't know. And she said, core memory, actually, because when I think of my grandparents' house, I remember her always having white peonies on the side of her property. So, wow, that's so cool. Then both of us had to go, because I had to get my little guy off to school and she had to get her kids off to school. So, we said goodbye. An hour or so later, she messaged me again, and she said, okay, so I have to share this with you. She's like, after, you share those messages, especially with the locket, I was thinking about where that locket is. So it was something that, she would have had in her home, but she didn't know where it was, but she had some sort of jewelry box of some sort in her closet. So she was led to her closet, and she's looking for the locket, doesn't find it. But what she does notice is on a shelf kind of above, pushed kind of far back, there is a framed photograph of her grandmother. And not only that, there's this like false, like a fake flower. And it's white. It's a white peony. And it's just the head of it. There's no stem on it. It's just this, probably the size if you put both of your palms together, and cup them. It's like that big. And it's just sitting next to her photo frame. And she goes, what the heck? Like, why is there even a fake flower in my closet? Like, I have no recollection of how that got there, when it was put there. I don't know who put it there. Like, what the heck? And it just happens to be next to my grandmother's picture, pushed back on a shelf when I'm looking for her locket. And all of my arm hairs are standing up as I share this with you. And I said, this is such a beautiful example of spirit communication. This is such a beautiful example of following the breadcrumbs. You feel intuitively that you should send me a video that reminds you of your grandmother. So you do. You follow the breadcrumb. Then we start talking about her. And then Grandpa uses your physical reality, knowing that there's an E and a K that's going to appear on your screen any second now. 1, 2, 3, look up. There it is. You're associating that with him because he is blending with your energy and using something in your environment very specifically that connects and relates to him. And I said, that could have been the end of it. However, Nanny, knowing that you're speaking to a medium, is going to say, oh, wait, I want to show her that I'm also there. I want to validate my existence, but I don't think there's anything in her physical reality right now that has my initials on it. But let's stick with the theme of initials. Here's a locket. Shows me in my mind's eye a locket, which very clearly is remembered by her granddaughter that she had a locket with her initials. Okay, so we're following the breadcrumbs. And then we leave it. Other than we brought up she brought up the smell of the peonies and the white peony, right? Which was a core memory for Jay because she remembered those being always growing on the side of her grandparents' house. And then how do we combine all of these three together? Well, after Jay drops her kids off at school, she's going to go, you know what? I feel like I want to go look for that locket. All this information was divinely orchestrated. Can you see how? Because her grandpa would know, I'm going to show the initials, and then grandma's going to be like, I'm going to show mine. I'm going to connect to the locket because then she's going to want to go look for the locket. And she thinks the locket's in her closet. When she gets to the closet, she's going to find my picture and she's going to find a big white peony that she doesn't know is there. That's why I show Amy the locket and why I show Amy a big white peony. All connecting. And if Jay hadn't come home and gone, you know what, I think I'm going to go look for that locket, or had this instinct to reach back in the closet a little bit to see the picture and the peony, none of that could have happened. That was a direct spiritual message, but it was more than that. It was also a teaching. It was a lesson wrapped up into a message. The message was, I'm here for you. I'm witnessing your life. I'm proud of you. I see you brushing your daughter's hair off her face. You're such a good mom. I know that you love me. Yes, that was me. That was with you when you were staying in that hotel room. Thank you for thinking about me. And then also providing some sort of Easter egg, providing some sort of, hey, let's follow the breadcrumbs here, because by doing so, you are gaining real life examples and experience in how it feels to receive and follow spiritual Easter eggs, so to speak. And so that, to me, as a medium, I can also see the extra messaging and layers here to say that for Jay, because there's a lesson and a teaching involved directly with her loved ones in uncovering these pieces of evidence and these messages, this would highly suggest to me, that she also is someone that's very capable of spirit communication, and that spirit is wanting to provide her with in real time, examples of, then she has me as a medium to validate in the moment and to encourage or to kind of explain how something works. So I think that is just an absolute brilliant strategy by her grandparents in the spirit world to drive home so many different things: guidance and love and evidence, but also a teaching and a lesson. And so I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was absolutely wild. While we're here, I also want to share with you some experiences that I had today. So earlier today, I got to have 2 readings. This doesn't happen very often. As the medium, I am always the one giving readings. And once in a while, I will treat myself by booking a reading with another medium. But it doesn't happen all that often. And last week, a friend and a fellow medium, Jamie, reached out to me and asked if I would consider doing a reading exchange. I have done these before. I've done one with Erin before. Basically, what that means is you do a reading for me, I do a reading for you. A total energetic exchange. And I agreed. And so last week I did that reading for her and provided her with some evidence and guidance about a particular challenging situation that she's navigating. And then today it was my turn. So I, just kind of made some brief list of intentions in my notebook here. Just a few, I would like to touch on this and this and this. But other than that, I was an open book. And she brought through so many, she touched on all of those, I will say. And she brought through so many amazing spirit messages, for which I'm so grateful for. And I'm still feeling like I'm on a high from. One of them I want to share with you, okay? I'm full of chills as I'm talking about this. I almost feel like, when you like are on a roller coaster, or you're like, I don't know, doing something that kind of gives you that feeling in your belly where you're like, oh, and you just kind of want to go, oh, that's kind of how I feel right now. So anyways, my grandmother came through. I'm going to try to stay focused. My grandmother came through and she acknowledged my tattoo that I got in memory of her, and said that I was very cheeky. It was not something that she expected from me, but that she really liked it and she loved the color. And she brought up specifically, if you're on YouTube, you can see this flower. So on this memorial tattoo, there's a mourning dove, and there is some sunflowers, and there are 3 orange marigolds. And I picked out the sunflowers and the orange marigolds and the mourning dove very, very specifically. So those were things that I chose to be in memory of my nanny. And she said, Jamie specifically referenced the orange marigold. And she said, Nanny says it's really kind of humorous that you chose an orange marigold, or just a marigold in general, to represent her in a real loving kind of way. And I said, why? I just always think about orange marigolds being in her garden. They were a constant. They were always in her garden. And it just makes me think of her. And she said, she finds it funny because she's telling me that she planted marigolds because they are a pest deterrent. A pest deterrent. And she said, Amy, do you know if this is true? I said, I'm not a gardener. I have no idea. And I said, so she chose to plant those so that pests would be deterred from eating her garden. And I chose that plant, that flower, to be memorialized for all of eternity on my arm. And I said, oh my goodness, the irony. Now, like, no wonder she's laughing. And I said, well, let's just take this. The flip side of it is that I have a pest deterrent on my arm. So we will think about it like that, right? And so I Googled it afterwards, and it is in fact gardening knowledge that marigolds are deterrents to certain spiders and flies, etc. And I just had to laugh forever. LOL forever over that one for sure. Every time I look at my arm and I see that orange marigold, I will laugh forever, evermore. So there was that, and she brought through a ton of different messages, and there was a ton of different loved ones that came through. But I want to share, I want to share also that this afternoon I received another reading. And so this reading was by Laura. And Laura is a podcast listener. She is a friend, and she is someone that I have provided a reading for in the past. And so we were chatting one day last week about kind of receiving messages from spirit, mediumship development, all that kind of stuff. Laura is a natural born medium, and really just things are showing up in her lifetime since she's lost her dad, similar to how my development began after I lost my dad. And our dads are kind of come forward to say, hey, our passing is directly related in some sort of way to your own awakening, to your own mediumship development. I see her dad a bit like a guide for her, the same as others have said. My dad is a guide for me when it comes to mediumship and messages. And so she and I have been talking about practicing, right? And how we can learn from a medium. We can take mediumship development courses. Someone can tell us kind of the ethics of it, how to be mindful about things, how to handle certain things in readings, what we should expect to receive and how to receive it, and kind of all those how-tos. But we also need to know that what works for one may work a little bit different for ourselves. So we really need to kind of tweak everything about our mediumship development. So a medium can kind of give you how it works in general, and then you can tweak a little as needed. And sometimes that can be difficult for us when we want to when we're people that, think in a really linear way or a logical way, and we're like, give me steps 1 to 5, and then we're done. But it doesn't always work like that, right? And we are taught, and things, our knowledge base and skill set and spiritual kind of toolbox expands and evolves as our knowledge does. And so, it can never fit into a one size fits all kind of course. I don't think, at least. And so we've been talking about that, and I was encouraging her to practice. That I really feel like all she really needs to do is practice, because the only way to really feel confident enough to sit in front of someone and channel their loved one and provide the kind of information and evidence that really should be expected in a mediumship reading. We should expect evidence in a reading. We really should. We should be open, and we should be mindful that things might not always make sense in the moment that we receive them, but we should have expectations around the fact that our loved ones should be able to identify themselves in some sort of way. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to receive a name every time, because I'll be honest, a lot of mediums can just, drive themselves crazy trying to get names. It's never been on my radar of something I need, absolutely. When a specific name comes through, it's always a great, like, oh my God, that's so awesome. But it's not something that I receive every reading. I would say I receive names maybe 60% of the time, but it's not something I receive every time. But all that to say, we should be expecting some sort of evidence. I have a man here. He feels like a father. He it looks like this. His hair looks like this. He's pointing out this. He's bringing up cigarette smoke or what have you. Like, they have to get somewhat specific. They can't just be like, I have a father figure here who says he loves you. You need to provide a little bit more than that. And the way to do that is through practice with safe people in an open environment. And I know it might be intimidating to think about doing a practice reading with a medium that's a working medium, right? Like she said, kind of intimidated to practice with a pro. And I said, please don't think of me that way. In fact, try to think about it in the sense that I am a medium, therefore I totally understand spirit communication, and therefore I'm kind of a safe person to practice with, because I'm not going to need you to prove anything to me. I'm going to be able to read between the lines. I'm going to be able to go, oh, you bring this up, I know what that is. And I'll give you a really good example. So Laura did this practice reading with me this afternoon, okay, connected to my grandmother. And one of the messages that came through, I'm going to point behind me, so those of you on video will be able to see. Behind my chair, I'm pointing to a little red bird. It's a cardinal. This was my grandmother's. Now, I think that it was actually a nightlight. It has a hole in the bottom of it that looks like it was a nightlight that somebody gave to her. And then what she did is eventually she took it off the nightlight and just kind of used it as a little ornament. And it was always on her bookshelf in her living room. And this was something that I received after she passed, among many other things. And so I'm just sitting like this. And also I was on Zoom, so my background was kind of blurry, so you couldn't really make anything out behind me. Anyways, what she said was, I keep hearing something about a red bird. And I got up and I got this off my shelf and I was like, yep, red bird. This was my grandmother's. And she said, oh my God, Amy, I heard bird. And then I saw a red bird, like a cardinal, and I thought, but then I felt like, no, I got to say it. And so these are examples of how we can get in our own heads as mediums. And, and we all do this. I do this too. And I try to quickly correct it so I can move out. But we might see a red bird, right? And go, okay, that's a cardinal. Oh, but like cardinals are such a specific spirit sign. I don't want to say cardinal because like everybody might say cardinal, and we can start to get in our human mind and start to make it not so. When all along, yes, it is a red bird. Yes, it is a cardinal. And here it is literally sitting behind me and it belonged to her. So, basically what I want everybody to get comfortable with, if you are a budding intuitive, a developing medium, when you set your intention to connect to someone, you're practicing, right? And you set your intention to connect to them. After that, what is received that feels like it flows in, it's not like you're forcing it to come in, it just kind of flows into your awareness, is from spirit. The minute you begin to question it is the minute you've stepped out of spirit and into your own ego. Okay. So it's okay to step back when you're practicing, or even, if you've been doing it for a long time, to momentarily go, I'm in my own mind because I'm questioning the evidence. We don't question the evidence. It's not our job ever. It's something I had to learn myself over the years. It's not our job ever to try to make sense of the evidence. It's not our evidence. It doesn't have to make sense to us. And in fact, I found sometimes the more random the evidence, the more specific, the more it's validated, And so that was a really good example of that. She just had to say red bird, and she trusted herself enough to do so. And then I was able to validate with that little red bird behind me. And she really utilized so many of her clear senses, and I was just beaming. I was very, very, very proud of her with the messages that came through. Every single thing that she brought through, I was able to validate. And so I'm so proud of her. I knew that she was a natural medium. And, I've had experiences like this with other clients who I have, practiced with and allowed them to connect to me. And those experiences were mind blowing to them as well, in the sense that they were like, oh my God, like, how did I get all that stuff right? I thought that was just my imagination. So I really, really encourage you guys to begin practicing with things. I am going to take a nod from Laura, because Laura was the person I was just speaking about. Laura has asked me to maybe create some sort of spirit development circle, right? So it doesn't have to be an ongoing thing. It can just be a thing that we all come together for a low cost, and we sit together and we have another person to practice with. And I thought, you know what? I think I should do that. So if that's something you guys are interested in, please let me know, and stay aware, stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Keep in touch, and take a look at my social media to see when that is going to be coming about, because it is something I feel called to do. And two things that came through with both Jamie and Laura's connection to my grandmother today was, there was two specific messages, and one was to do with leadership and next steps around work, and the second one was around my health. And both of those things were intentions that I wanted to hear about today. There was a common message between both of them from my nanny that it's time to get out of my own way, and that I have important work to do, and it's time to take it to the next level, so to speak. And my grandmother kept repeating to Laura, Amy's a leader, Amy's a leader, Amy's a leader, and she has important work to do. And so that was extremely humbling and beautiful message to receive. And, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to do something with it. I can't let my nanny down. And Jamie brought through something very similar about it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go, like, get out of your own way. In fact, there was a message that came through with my dad when Jamie was connecting around fear of failure, and that there was a commonality between the two of us. He was a Virgo sun, I'm a Virgo rising. So definitely this kind of perfectionistic, shadowy lens with the two of us when it comes to this. But basically what he said was that he had a fear of failure, and if he couldn't do something perfect, he would just not do it. And I resonate with that 1,000%. That is definitely a shadow of mine, where I'm like, I can't guarantee absolutely 1,000% success. So yeah, I'm not even going to try. Right. And hearing that come through from him kind of allowed me to see myself through a different lens, because I always viewed my dad as having such huge potential, just a brilliant brain. And, I sometimes I get sad thinking, if he had a different upbringing or a different kind of life, he really could have been someone, right? And I don't say that in like an ego kind of way. I'm saying that directly from his words, because that's something that he said before. If I had a different life, different upbringing, maybe I would have gone to university. Maybe I would have been able to get a good job. Maybe I would have been somebody, right? And so I know that was something that he wished that he had been able to do differently. And I always see that kind of untapped potential within him. And so if he's comparing the two of us in this way, I'm like, oh, I don't want there to be any stone left unturned. I don't want any of my potential to be left untapped. So really, truly need to think about that and get out of my own freaking way. So I do so appreciate that message. And then she said that my loved ones in spirit were also kind of bringing forward a feeling of, but your mediumship is the first thing that you really just kind of leapt with. And it's weird because, when you're doing mediumship and spirit communication, you're not really in charge. You just have to trust that you come to the table with good intentions, an open heart, an open mind, and you will receive. And so you just continually show up. And they're like, you do it with your mediumship. You just need to, carry that forward and do it with other things. But that it was brought through that mediumship was really, really purposeful in my life, and for it to happen when it did and how it did. And that part of the reason was to help me move through a fear of failure. And that so resonates with me 1,000%. The other commonality was around my health, which was an intention that I had set. And it was around both of them, brought through my nanny, talking about my current health challenges, autoimmune condition that I have, being really, really impacted by stress currently. And so to be really, really mindful of my stress, and that sometimes I can get in almost like a worst case scenario spiral kind of, mindset around health. And just, I felt really supported in kind of knowing, hey, like, continue to follow the breadcrumbs here and take care of yourself and look after what you need, but don't go into like doomsday worst case scenario when it comes to your health, because you just kind of create it energetically when you do that. So try not to do that. Like, you don't have to worry about the worst case scenario, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, because I was doing that today. Literally, I was in my mind worrying about, I've got this pain in my side, like, oh my goodness, what if, blah, blah, blah. And then I can kind of spiral. Hello, Virgo rising, Virgo North Node, Virgo Mars, Virgo Jupiter. There's all kinds of stuff in Virgo for me. Yeah, so that was amazing. What an amazing experience I had today. My energy is so light. While I have you, I want to pull a card for you. I'm going to pull a card from one of my newest decks that I received in a subscription box from Hay House. And this one is called Animal Guides Tarot. It is by Radley Valentine. I'm going to give it a little shuffle, and we'll have our little message for whenever you are listening to this podcast. Let me take a moment to appreciate the beautiful art on the back of these cards. There is a big, like, kind of snowy owl, and it's carrying what looks like a scroll, like a piece of paper that's rolled, very Harry Potter-esque. There's a beautiful blue butterfly and a crescent moon in the sky, and I just love the artwork so much. I'm just going to set my intention here to connect to you, the listeners, whenever you receive this. Whenever you listen to this podcast, that you receive the message right on time. Okay, we got the 9 of Earth. Earth is based on the suit of Pentacles, and the card is this beautiful, there's a lot of green here. There's a beautiful cat that is sitting on the arm of a chair in a sunny window. So let's see what the card says to us. It says, your success has brought you financial security and the reward of much deserved time off to enjoy your own company. You may suddenly have a brilliant idea for a business or self-employment opportunity that will be very successful. So that's what it says on the front of the card here. That's interesting. I am literally coming off some time off. I've had some time off, so I think that is definitely resonant for me. So essentially, this is kind of like hard work paying off, right? So to find balance with work and play, and to kind of know when it's time to find that balance, right? Like, everything has to be in perfect balance is what I'm hearing. So If you've been working really hard and you've been a really go-getter with your goals, it might be time to just kind of, it doesn't mean we have to take off a week of vacation. It could simply mean, hey, this weekend or today, I'm just gonna not think about that. I'm just gonna try to clear my mind, right? And put my feet up, or just remind myself that not everything is urgent. Just be in the moment. So this is really just about celebrating your success and the ability that the ability. What am I hearing? I'm hearing potential for. So it feels like there's a chapter that's just about to close for us when it comes to our finances or our careers, our livelihoods, I hear. And it feels like it's time to kind of bask in it. It's time to look at how far we've come. It's time to water our own grass a little bit, and that in doing so, it will open us up more energetically for new ideas and next steps to take. Okay. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck on something you've been working on, I feel like this is guidance to just take a time out, to take a purposeful pause, and that in itself will clear something so that you have more energetic capacity to receive a new idea, a new way of thinking. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this spirit story episode. And I hope that it helps you think about your own experiences in a different way and helps you kind of be on the lookout for how spirit communicates to you and to learn to follow the breadcrumbs. And I would love if you guys just start practicing with that and let us know how it goes. If you have an inkling about something, a little feeling, and you're like, what's this about? And then just continue to follow the lead and see where it goes. You will surprise yourself. Okay? Have a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next week.
If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you gotta do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.